We have an amazing personal story from a dear friend, Jill Willard, about coming out as an intuitive. So let's give Jill a warm welcome here.
Hi, you all. I am very grateful for this platform, Mind, Body, Green. This will be the first time that I come out with a lot of these details publicly. So let's go. Let's rock and roll. So intuition, I feel, is pretty astounding. It's healthy. It's kind. It's trustworthy. It propels us forward by its wisdom, our wisdom within. It's here to stay, even if we check out. So how I came out to be an intuitive and psychic has a lot to do with the above statements. I knew intuition helped me greatly throughout my life, and I also knew that when I came out publicly as a psychic and intuitive, that I viewed intuition and psychic ability possibly like some of you. I knew intuition was a gift, and it had been a gift all of my life, and I also felt that the word psychic was a little foreign, odd, and creepy. It was, and is still a loaded word, although it's getting much more common. I have intuitive ability on my Roman Catholic side of my family. I also have it on the other side of my extended family, and Quaker pastors and strong women who really believe in partnership. I have it in the way that I practice what looks like Buddhism, and in the way that I believe we are all one. I feel partnership is key to honing and opening our intuition, and this partnership can be ourselves with our soul, it can be the right and left side of the mind, it can be our younger self with our older wise one within, or it can be us with our guides or our God. It can also be the gut with the heart, or the heart with the head, or the intuitive side of the mind. I was also conceived in Thailand when my mom went over to visit my dad during the Vietnam War. In Thailand, psychic monks are very trusted and loved. And so in a sense, I'm response or result of this communion and war, this bravery and peace. And I hope to bring that all in intuitively, and that's also what I hope for all of you. So I feel some of you might be the same, and that your life can have more details and also a straighter line leading you forward. And if you're being intuitive with that, you can come into a lot more presence, openness, and really embrace your uniqueness. So why do I mention this all? Because I believe we are all intuitive. We all have intuitive gifts. And I believe that we're just beginning to reach our higher potential. So some pro athletes and celebrity really fight me on this, but many do not. They know. They know there is more than just physical or mental feat. This could be emotional intelligence, spiritual unity. This could be forgiveness, seeing one another, alchemy, listening, especially to ourselves, our children, or our child within. So as a child, I turned on and off my intuition quite a bit, sometimes mindfully, sometimes unconsciously. I did this as a coping mechanism to fit in, to not fit in, or both, and I sealed it with a lot of hairspray and big hair. I'm very Aquarian by nature, so creative, independent, innovative at times. So you throw intuition on top of that, and it's quite a mix. I could go pretty internal. So my parents, coaches, at times some friends could not get in when I was in this state. I don't recommend that. Intuition is meant to be shared. So I've used intuition in thousands of readings, and I use it in the everyday, and it can still trip me out quite a bit. It makes life very exciting. So it still trips me out when I think of someone and then I run into them a few hours later, even if we haven't seen each other in years. I feel some of you might have had that experience. My math brain tries to calculate the odds, and it does make life more magical, fresh, surprising, which really, I think, brings some presence and health and unity into our day. So today, I still use my intuition quite a bit to read a room, so everyone watch out. I read it to read the air in between spaces or places in groups quite a bit, any given situation. This helps me actually be very present for friends, for loved ones, for you all here. My husband's actually the public speaker in the relationship. It's also helped me let go of a lot of excess emotion and stress over time. So to read loved ones, friends, peers, teachers, leaders, some political figures, as you know I've read, was not always an easy thing. What was in their aura or in their eyes was very different than what was coming out of their mouth or through their voice. I'm sure a few of you have had that situation happen before as well. I had to work very hard to not go insane. This practice took discipline that I still use today, and this discipline led me to yoga, forgiveness, and meditation. Actually, I was quite young, about 20, 21 years old. The tools of breath and responsibility. So when I was younger, intuition could be light and fun. Who was coming to a party? Was it going to rain? What to wear? What to make for dinner? And then it got a little more complicated. I went from predicting songs on the radio to who's going to walk in the room next. That was a great party game with our friends. To catching, cheating, and pedophilia. I had to go a lot deeper into forgiveness, to meditation, to yoga, to trust. I used my intuition to not stop things, a lot of fun things, like a great party we threw freshman year in high school. I knew the cops were going to come right before 11 o'clock, so I just stayed really calm and helped everyone else as they were in full chaos. And I knew I was going to get caught, but it was an educated leap or an educated guess, which I think some of you have used your gut for that as well. It's really wonderful to stay calm in the present moment. I think this is the age, around age 14, where we can really start taking responsibility for ourselves and our choices. I really think we get to start to know our gut around age 15 and our gut health and a lot of things that come along with that. I noticed at this age that many around me were already burying their healing gut. If you guys can think back to high school and even all the way into today. And that was by taking its worth away and by too much excess. So that excess could be thought, could be opinion, food, drink, pill, obsession, or attachment. I noticed in myself when I attached to love. I had to work through a lot of that, especially in my 20s. All things that can mask our internal worth, and then hearing our clear, powerful intuition. The gut's here. We also want to incorporate our higher wisdom or our intuition up here. So when I get older, I used intuition in many conventional ways. I would kind of hop back and forth. I used it to live with 1, 10, or 42 girls. I used my intuition to break up with my college love, who I knew had cheated on me. We were both on spring break. He was in Arizona, lovely Arizona. I was in Cabo, so I was the one in Cabo. He's the one who cheated. It's all good. We're still friends. I used it to break up with my boyfriend right after college. I was traveling, backpacking in Europe, and I went to pick up a payphone in Switzerland. And as I did to call him, I could really see that he had just had lunch with a beautiful older brunette woman in Brentwood, California. And I had even had a little sangria. And he denied it, of course, and that was a very long train ride for me. And I mentioned that story because I really understood in that moment that it was real, I could see it, and I needed to start trusting myself more. When I got back, he and his roommates, of course, denied it. And just to have it all come out a couple weeks later. And I learned a lot about the good old boys club at that point, but also that I really had a trusted friend at my side and to use it, to not abuse it, and also to forgive, like I mentioned earlier. So a few years later, same thing happened almost in reverse. Third time's a charm. You think I'd use my gut and intuition, who I was choosing. Even I, when emotion is involved, do not always do so. Actually, I've gotten a lot better in my 30s and 40s. But I knew my beloved gent at that time was cheating on me. I just dropped him off at the airport at LAX, and he was going overseas. And I literally drove away from the airport knowing he was going to cheat on me. And that was really hard. I waited this time for a physical sign, as this relationship was going to be a tough one to let go. And literally, a few weeks later, we were in Chicago, and we were on a trolley, and a stranger, I still remember him, a gentleman in a tank top, got on the trolley ride and looked at my boyfriend at the time and said, "Last time I saw you, you were running down a beach with some chick or some lady." And I was sitting right next to him. I was not that lady. I knew in that moment that intuition had healing aspects, almost like the Matrix or magical attraction or whatever we want to call it, because I knew it was coming. And I also learned how much we have a choice about how much we want to listen to it. And if we want to put it in our pocket and wait for more signs, that's okay too. But my intuition kept growing, and a lot came to head at my grandfather's funeral that next year. I think it was 25 or 26. And I was sitting in the front row of the pew. This was a little hard for me. And I looked up to see that the priest giving the funeral mass was sexually abusing the boys to his right and his left. This was in the 90s. It was really hard. They stood there diligently doing as he asked, and it was like a horror film. And that priest knew that I knew, which taught me a lot about those that can use their intuition or instinct animalistically. We're not all saints because we're intuitive or psychic. And I do not know who believed me that day. I did share it with the few I was around. But I made a decision to use my voice more. There was no love in the silence. And a short time later, that priest church had hate crimes performed on them by a few male teens. And I was even asked, don't I feel sorry for the priest? And a lot of people were empathizing with him. Years later, that priest got caught for over 30 years of sex crimes, and he is still in jail today. So coming back from that funeral gave me a greater sense of intuition's power. Maybe it was my grandparents up above, but I got more honest and direct, which is not easy for my personality. I went up into the hills of the Central Coast, and I healed. And I needed to heal so many of the farces and stories that I had chosen to believe about our culture, the way things should be. I had to ironically turn off my intuition to find my voice. I had a great couple years up on the Central Coast. And then I knew it was time to come back down to the city. And I was finding a lot of honesty and a lot of people that were rising into their intuition. I was still seeing a lot of deceit. But I chose for more harmony and new. To this day, I've never ratted anyone out. I almost said that priest's name, but I wasn't going to. I've never ratted anyone out for cheating or doing anything illegal. Sometimes it comes in readings, and I talk directly to the person, and there's always healing aspects of how to move through, especially if we honor our truth. It's become a more intuitive time, so a lot of people are going to, quote, catch or see things in one another we didn't, quote, see before. I did once go to the source of someone cheating, who I considered family, and I asked them to tell their mate, who I cared for very deeply. It was leaking out to many, and the external signs were slipping, which is always a sign to me that it's time. It's really time to talk about it. Same as that trolley ride. And this couple was thinking about having children. I had to find a lot of healing in the fact that all do not want to know or live in intuitive truth. That good old boys club, too, came along with it, which was hard for me. I was getting a lot of resistance. But I wanted to change that. I knew in that moment that it was just time to move on and to really embrace intuition. So I used my intuition to find my dear, trusted mate and get married. I used my intuition of when to have children, to have natural childbirth, how to get through long days of motherhood, pick our kids' schools, all those good things, where to live, and that was blissful. But I'd now been exposed, friends knew, and which was such a blessing, how intuitive I'd become. So two dear friends led me back up the coast to evolutionary astrologer, Dr. Jennifer Freed, who said that I had this high psychic ability in my chart, so in astrology, she read my chart, and that if I didn't use it, I would be stripped. And I didn't love hearing that. It was a monetary gain of comfort and that I had to use it. And I was planning to be a stay-at-home mom. We'd already had our first child, Abe, at that time. I don't even think he was 1. So she asked me a couple questions, and I promised I would come back in a year. And if those questions came to be, I would come out as psychic. I'd still never seen a psychic. And I just really wasn't unsure. So I actually came back in a year, and everything that we had thought or predicted happened. So I came out publicly as a psychic or intuitive. And I went from doing readings at the ocean to a bench to people's couches. A lot of friends supported me, and then a lot of people who were already in that spiritual realm were coming, and I was getting quite busy. So then I had a great little sublet office in downtown Manhattan Beach, and now to a larger office right outside Venice. There was no field of study or degree for this line of work. I tried to find it. I tried to find great mentors. That's one reason why I'm stepping forward, so we can normalize it. There's a lot of great psychics and intuitives already out there, but I just didn't find anyone that really resonated with how I lived or what I believed. I was also at the same time reading what the gardener across the street was doing. To have it unfold in front of my eyes, I was reading strangers walking by, predicting their conversations. I'd be in grocery store lines, the Starbucks lines. So I just knew that over time I needed to kind of calm what I was doing, find more of the tools, get back to meditation and forgiveness. And the first reading I actually ever did was at a coffee shop before Michael Starr's sample sale. I did it for 2 friends. And I really realized the difference of the 2 short readings and just how much healing came from that. So that was really powerful and turned a lot around. When I told my husband that I was coming out as a psychic, his response was actually, good, now you'll get paid for doing this instead of getting trapped in the corner at parties. So that was lovely. Being psychic was not really in our marriage agreement, so I lucked out there. The mediumship began to happen after that, and that was really interesting, but I started to get really used to that. And then I decided to retreat and have our last child. I felt that I deserved it. And once I retreated and had that, we had our beautiful Giuseppe, we call him Juju. And then remember that whole thing about being stripped. If I didn't use it, I ended up getting stripped. And my husband, I got word first, that my husband was about to lose his job at ESPN. So I almost had my first panic attack, but good thing I knew meditation and breathing. Our youngest was 4 months old, and I had honestly always wanted to cocoon after having for at least 3 months. So I always got my 3 months, and then it was over. But my husband was a good broadcaster, and I knew that this had to do with me. Some of it did. Some I could read his boss, and I knew what was going on there. But anyway, my husband said goodbye on September 1st at ESPN. And then September 2nd, I literally said, fate, show me where you want me. I just said it out loud, no publicists, no advertising, no anything. 1 week later to the day, I was sitting in beautiful Gwyneth Paltrow's home giving her her first reading. So I really understand how to walk this, and it's what I really want for you guys as well, how to move through and really use your intuition and use it as power. Her beautiful editor-in-chief at Goop, we wrote a great article together. I thought it'd be a series. It's a little long. The Trust Your Gut article is a little long. I apologize. But then a lot of writings that I had collected and written over time for clients and friends and people we collected, and HarperCollins bought that, and that's a book coming out called Intuitive Being. It's out now. So anyway, what does this mean for your journey? And this is really what I love to get to. So I want to help you embrace your unknown and just really know that that intuition energizes the brain. It helps you make decisions about where to go in life and also what to eat, like we've heard about earlier, and what to test and all of that good stuff. So it gives us more energy. It gives us a beacon, the beacon within, a compass. So the 3 simple tools that I feel you can help accelerate your intuition is 1, meditation, of course, and really clearing the past, very important, making room for a present story or really no story at all. We created a company, I Am Meditation, or IamCommunity.com, to really help with those bridging tools, simple meditations and ways to meditate longer, more deeply. And then the second one is understanding subtle energy, the seen and the unseen. So if we have 2 trees, it's a positive space, and then the space between the 2 trees, the subtle energy, or what's called in art as negative space, how to start really getting into that space, not looking at it as negative. So that's fresh air and oxygen and light and all of that energy that we can really read, and our brain knows how to read. We really know how to read it now. The number 3 is learning energy centers. Some of you know I talk a lot about this, also known as chakras. Read Intuitive Being, the book, and then just understanding how to balance your right and left side of the mind, very important. Okay, so you've listened a while, thank you. So I wanted to shift just lastly and do 2 simple practical meditations, if you guys are up for it. So if you can, let's uncross our legs. And if you're listening at home, uncross your legs. Beautiful. Straight spine, so sit up a little more. Okay, and then we're going to inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And on this one, we're going to inhale through our nose. Exhale out, visualizing it through our feet. Again, inhaling through your nose. Exhaling out through your feet. Getting the energy away from your thinking mind. Good. Okay, back to center. And the second one we call I Am Here, which is a finger touch meditation. It's so easy and balancing. So you take both hands, shoulders down if you can, and then touch each finger to your thumb. And we say, I am here now. I am here now. There you go. Now, I am intuitive now. I am intuitive now. Heart connect. Thank you.